Okay, we are live. Welcome to Marco Boxing. We have a very special guest. Hello, Mauricio. How are you doing?
Fine, fine, Marco. How are you?
Good, man. Thank you for joining me. I
I'm,
appreciate
so,
it.
I'm sorry for being late. I could not connect. I had some issues, but I'm here.
It's okay. 5 minutes is not a big deal. So, are you in Mexico now? Where are you?
Yeah, in Mexico City, just finished a 3 week trip and came back with many, many pending topics. So it's a busy time at this moment, but I'm very happy to be with you.
Oh, yes, yeah. I'm happy to have you. I mean, I remember when your father was president of the WBC. How did your father get into this line of work in boxing?
Well, he was born in a very small town in the province of Mexico. His friends were boxers, and one night they invited him to watch the fights. He didn't have any money to buy the ticket, so the guy in the gate told him, "Well, if you go in and participate in," he told them like the appetizers, then you can go in. He didn't understand what it was. Goes in, they take the shirt off, put some gloves on. He had to fight a 1 minute round against a kid he didn't know and he didn't hate, and that's how he experienced boxing, and he
Wow.
loved it. So he
Wow.
started training and became amateur fighter. He got a jaw and broken nose, so that's when he retired and decided to join the commission.
Uh
His
huh.
uncle was the doctor of the commission, so
Okay.
he did everything you can imagine in a boxing world, from go get this, go get that, ring announcer, judge, referee, everything from all the steps on the ladder. So that's how he got into boxing.
Was this all in Mexico when he first
Yep.
started?
He started in the small town, then in the state level, then he moved to another state, then he became the president of the national commissions, and then eventually joined the WBC as a general secretary and was elected president in 1975.
Oh wow. The WBC, as you know, now we're in the four belt era, but the WBC seems to have the most meaning behind it. It seems to be the belt that everybody wants to win, where they really consider themselves champion.
Well, that is a great feeling for us. We are an organization that has a very strong work platform, 176 countries affiliated. We are a non-profit organization, and
Oh,
we have so many people working all over the world to make boxing better and especially make it safer. We're very close to the fighters, to the managers, to the trainers, to the promoters. We have many committees, so we have people that day after day they dedicate so much of their own time to be close by and make boxing better in many ways.
mm,
And we have a very proud history. Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Chavez, Lerner, Hagler, Hearns, Mayweather, Pacquiao, but also all the things that we have done, because when the WBC began 60 years ago, it was a much different sport of what we know today.
right,
There were
right.
3 ropes in the ring, 6-ounce gloves, 15 rounds. The referee was the only judge. There were no medicals, no anti-doping. There were the referees were just only there to watch and make sure some rules were. But if you see tapes from the 60 years ago, the fights were brutal.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that I never understood with there's kind of a gray area, I think, is the athletic commission of each state, at least in America, has certain rules that the fighters must follow. But then you guys, the WBC, for example, also has certain rules. So who really, which organization's rules are the ones that are the most dominant?
Wherever a fight takes place, whether it's California, Japan, New York, Philippines, every jurisdiction is different. In the United States, every state has a jurisdiction,
Right.
and every city abides by the state legislation. In Japan, there's only one boxing organization that sanctions boxing in Japan, Philippines also, in London and the UK the same. In Mexico, every single city can have a boxing commission. So it depends of where in the world you are sanctioning a fight. The WBC rules apply to championship fights. The local boxing commission rules apply to 4, 6, 8, 10 rounders. But also in the United States, there's the ABC, which is the Association of Boxing Commissions, that have the unified rules that apply only for championship fights. So you can see a fight in a non-title fight in California with different rules than in Delaware or New York or Texas. But
Right.
championship fights are under the rules of the Association of Boxing Commission in the United States. In the rest of the world, the WBC has a few different rules that apply in our world title fights.
Right, right. Yeah, it's people don't I don't think people understand how complex all of this is. That's the one downfall, I guess, of boxing not having one, you know, governing body. You're subject to, like you said, different states, different countries. Everything is very different. Like in Mexico, right? You can be professional at 15,
It depends. Legally, it's 16,
16.
but many fighters have their debut when they are younger, and some states allow it. So it's a problem worldwide.
Mm,
Um, but it is in all sports. It is like this, but boxing, it really has a much bigger attention by the fans and the media, with some romantic wish of one single body, but that is not practical. It's very complicated. But
right,
we stick to what we do. We try to do our best. When we go to a different country or commission, we always try to have amicable agreements for the rules, for the ring officials' appointments. But it's very, very difficult. It's a case by case situation.
right, right. And if I'm not mistaken, you had just given Tyson Fury, granted him permission to fight in Ngannou, correct?
Yes, Tyson Fury is the WBC heavyweight champion. He fulfilled his mandatory last year against Dillian White. Immediately, he started the process wanting to do the unified for the ultimate unification for the
Right.
undisputed against the winner of Joshua Usyk rematch. He was ready to fight in December. Usyk was not, so he fought Derek Chisora. And all this time, we were all led to believe that the unified championship would take place March, April. At the end, that broke off, and since then, we as an organization, we put everything allowing that fight to take place, hoping it would take place. We like unification bouts.
Right.
That's exciting for boxing. But since it didn't take place, we don't have a mandatory contender. We ordered Wilder against Reese for the final elimination to have a very solid mandatory contender.
Mm,
Because the WBC does not simply appoint a contender just to have a mandatory contender and disrupt the championship with
right.
someone that is not the best possible challenger. And so there's no fight right now for Fury. He requested a non-title event as a special WBC event, so he was granted. We're waiting, hoping that Wilder and Ruiz finalize their fight. But at this time, Fury is free to
So,
engage this event.
so that's a question I have. So you ordered Fury, excuse me, Wilder and Ruiz, but they're already having some issues with the money. And what happens if they don't come to an agreement?
We have given them a deadline in August. If they don't have an agreement, then we will cancel that order that happened. If one of them pulls out of that fight, and then we will make a different ruling.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess you have to adapt to whatever situations are going on. Okay. So let me ask you. I forgot to ask you this. Did you ever box yourself?
with my friends. I trained since I was a kid. I really wanted to be a boxer when I was very little. When I saw Mantequilla Napoles after a fight, I told my father I wanted to be a fireman because Mantequilla was all bloodied. Every Friday after school, my friends will go home, put on the gloves all afternoon, have fun, eat pizza, and then go home. So I did box. I have trained with several champions, Carlos Zarate, Ricardo Lopez.
Oh wow.
It's been fun, and my son, he's in love with boxing. He wants to be amateur boxer. He trains every day and he spars every Saturday.
Oh,
But it's a great
how
sport.
how old is he?
16.
Okay, so he's the right age. Yeah. So who are your? Do you have like who are your favorite fighters growing up? Do you have two or three you could name?
Yeah, when I was very young, Mantequilla Napoles was my hero, Carlos Zarate,
Mm-hmm.
and the one that captured my imagination and really got me as a fan was Sugar Ray Leonard.
Of course.
He was, but then I started. Uh, then I got into more uh, as a part of the WBC, so I understood that we cannot have favorites. I had a great relationship. I still have with Mike Tyson, with Chavez.
Mm,
But then it comes a point that you understand that you are not a fan, even though you feel like a fan. But there are things that you have to work, and then there's no difference when a fighter goes into the ring. There's no nationality, no status, no race, no nothing. It's just whoever wins is your champion. Whoever
right.
loses deserves the best recognition and honor.
Right. Well, hopefully you can answer this question, but we the big fight coming up, Spence versus Crawford. Are you allowed to tell me who you think is going to win?
I never give an opinion because it would be misleading. I know it's going to be a great fight. Crawford has great speed and great power. Has been very dominant. Spence is a great fighter overall. Since the accident, he has had some setbacks, but I believe he's. I mean, we're gonna see Sugar Ray Leonard against Hearns of the current times. I believe it's gonna be an epic fight that the world is gonna really enjoy, and we're gonna see the best boxing at the highest level that we can never imagine.
What do you think makes this fight so captivating? I mean, it's the most captivating fight we've had in a very long time.
Well, the being in the welterweight, being undefeated champions that they've been uh, speculating to fight each other, and the media has been creating this a great speculation. So, as I say, they're at the highest level, and it's going to be a sensational fight.
Yeah, yeah, and it's the first ever undisputed welterweight four belt era, right?
Exactly. That's another added uh, benefit for the fans watching.
And I always wondered, what makes another belt be accepted as a major, the WBO slowly somehow kind of crawled into being a major belt. And what determines what's a major belt?
I don't know. I guess the media. Um, there was many years it was WBA and WBC only. The WBA had a convention for elections. There was a breakthrough, so they created the IBF, the people who left the WBA.
Oh,
Then
okay.
years later, again at a WBA convention, there was a problem. The people who left created the WBO. So
Oh,
for many years, it took the IBF some time to be recognized, and it took some time for the WBO to be recognized. But as long as there's promoters and TV stations showing those fights, then they start getting a position as a
Right.
recognized sanctioning organization, and each one has different rules, different criterias, different agendas. But I believe at this time, these four organizations, we work together. We try to make the best possible, but everyone is very, very different.
Yeah, like who back when, for example, Jack Dempsey was champion, what was that? Because back then it was just called the world title. Who, what organization ran that world title? Do you know?
I think it's more recognition by the fans, by the media, by there was no one organization because there were no rules. Uh,
Well, the Queensberry rules were right.
yes, yes, there was the Queensberry rules, but have you ever read the Queensberry rules?
Yeah,
It's
not
12 rules, no biting, no striking in the very limited rules.
right.
Then eventually came the gloves, then the 3 minute round. We had even last century 45 round fights. So the real rule that came in, uh, the like the European Boxing Union, they've been in existence 75 years. The Oriental and Pacific Boxing Federation 90 years.
Wow.
Panama 100 years. So there were authorities mostly regulating local activity, and the world champion, as it says, it was mostly, there were some times that Europe recognized one, New York would recognize a world champion. So it's a fascinating read, into the history of.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I saw that, and at one point, the New York State Athletic Commission belt, I think, was a major belt, right?
Yes, yes, it was.
Yeah. And yeah, and it slowly evolved into the three belts for the longest time. But as I said before, people always, it seems like the most coveted belt is that green belt.
Yes, I feel very proud for that because we work very hard, and we have our so many programs, as I mentioned, before, during, and after the fighters' life in the ring.
Mm,
So we work with amateurs. We have platforms. We are very close to boxing gyms, to boxing uh, organizations and federations for amateur boxing worldwide. Then in professional boxing, in championship scenario, and then when they retire, regardless if you were a champion or not, they find a home in the WBC. We have
right,
many people taking care of fighters and trainers and uh,
right.
all the boxing community. It's like a big family.
So I'm curious about David Benavides. I know that he's been the mandatory for Canelo for a while. Is that through WBC as well?
Yes, the WBC accepted a interim championship to be contested by Benavides. He won it last year, and this year in March, he fought against Caleb Plant
Right.
to win the mandatory position. So he won it in March, and the mandatory position is every year. So he's the mandatory of the division.
Okay.
Canelo will fight in September. Benavides will also defend his interim title. Down the line, they will eventually fight, hopefully, as we all expect.
Right, and because it comes down to at a certain point, if Canelo doesn't fight him, then you guys would strip him, right? If he's still the mandatory and he's
Yeah,
doing
yeah. The rules are clear, but we are uh, to make boxing at its best.
right.
Uh, so we do not try, and we do not allow a position to be abused. That's
Okay.
why we have a process of mandatory contenders, which is very clear. And Benavides won that right, that privilege of being mandatory in March. 1 year, then it's March. There has been a speculation that they should fight now, and fans want to see that fight.
Right.
But we are not promoters. We are the organization that holds the rights and accolades for that belt.
Right.
We have the rules and the medicals and the protocols, but we are not the promoters. So there are fights that we would love to see. We cannot, like, for instance, we cannot order a champion of another organization to fight. Like, we could not order Crawford to fight Spence.
Right.
It has to be a fight that the promoters put together.
Right, right. And, I've always wondered when somebody is undisputed, how could they possibly meet all the mandatories of 4 different organizations? How's that possible?
That's a big problem. That's how undisputed championships are lost. We have met the 4 organizations. We have plans to perhaps have common mandatories or have elimination between the mandatory contenders, that eventually the undisputed champion has 1 mandatory or maybe
Right.
2 mandatories, but not 4, because otherwise they will be fighting mandatories all every single fight.
Right, right. And how do you guys determine rankings? Is there a voting that goes on internally, or how's that determined? Who's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
We have a ratings committee, 26 people from all over the world, representing all the regions.
Okay.
They work diligently every single week. They share communications through the great benefits of technology. They meet once a month, and they do it by Zoom, and they discuss all the results, people who retired, level of opposition, blah, 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 and they come up with a final draft. In fact, we publish the ratings today for the month of July, and it's a process, transparent. We have, during our convention, it's a open floor session. Anybody can speak, and it is all transparent. All the members are there, and anyone can put their case forward, and it is reviewed and voted on.
Right, right. Okay. Well, I know that you had to go soon, but I wanted to ask you and I always ask everybody this, your top 5 greatest fighters of all time, in your opinion.
Okay, my top 5, it's impossible. But I would say the first 5 that come to my mind, of course, Sugar Ray Leonard, of course, Chavez, Tyson, Muhammad Ali, and I'm going to put there Floyd Mayweather.
Oh, okay. That's a good list. That's a good list. I always include Roy Jones, but
tremendous fighter.
But because of his losses later in his career, a lot of people seem to forget what he did when he was in his prime.
Well, Sugar Ray Robinson lost so many fights at the end. Joe Louis lost so many fights at the end. Chavez.
I think it was the fact that Roy maybe was lost by knockout, and I think that makes people think differently.
Yes. He has had. He's still fighting.
I know.
It's something that the legacy can be tarnished. So we want fighters to retire at the correct time.
Right, right. Well, Mauricio, thank you for taking time to talk with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Marco. Anytime, and I appreciate your time as well.
All right. We'll talk soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.